Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and I have also once destroyed a structure inhabited by Kaido. No! But we are now in some pretty serious Wano climactic business. So the out-of-context summary for chapter 1047 is as follows. Fed up. The raid on Onigashima has now been in progress for almost 2 years of real-world time. And as a result, Luffy has more or less just said F everything and is now going to solve all of our problems in the only way he knows how, by punch-fighting them into raw obliteration. However, Sir Zesto, Inky the Octopus, and Pedit are far from fed up because they've all committed the glorious act of pressing the subscribe button for the Grand Line Review, which will result in consistent injections of One Piece culture being administered directly into your YouTube feed. And if you'd like to be our next subscriber of the day, then all you need to do is hit the funky red button, and please do say hi in the comments below if you are a new member of the Grand Fleet. Welcome. Alright, big things, big fist things, but there are several threads being bound closer together in this chapter. The first of which is the encroaching climax of Luffy versus Kaido. But this chapter also took the time to focus on elements of Wano as a whole finally coming together. Momonosuke got some time and is preparing for his moment of wonder. The story of Hiyori is also coming to a dramatic conclusion. The samurai on Wano have all accepted their end, and some time was even dedicated to the residents of the flower capital and their highest of hopes, which unbeknownst to them is ever so close within reach. So despite the fact that there was a big focus on Luffy versus Kaido, 1047 did a lot to streamline the elements of Wano, particularly with the parties who have been most emotionally affected. Although we begin the Luffy versus Kaido fight in a pretty fantastical way, with Luffy joyfully throwing a bolt of lightning straight into the scaly face of Kaido. And there was another really fun moment with the lightning as well. There was a point where Luffy got hit by Kaido but grabbed some lightning and then used it to do a spinny thing like it was a pole. And it was one of those moments that made me linger because I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that anywhere ever. It's just completely beyond my own personal imagination to be able to conjure choreography like that, which has been happening all throughout this post-awakening fight so far, and it's a real treat to read. I feel like it's very rare to see something completely new in battle manga, so small things like this, they just make me really happy. Weirdly enough, amongst all of the lightning and the punchings, we also had a big, suspiciously Roger-shaped information dump, where for the first time officially it has been confirmed that he is not, I suppose I should say was because he's dead, but it has been confirmed that he was not a devil fruit user. And as a result of this, I'm preparing for a wave of incoming comments on a video I made about a year ago, which explored a variety of options for a potential Roger devil fruit, but because this is the internet, we've now begun the obligatory lol, this didn't age well phase of the video. But look, after 800,000 views, I think that video deserves a well-earned retirement. Now, Roger not having a devil fruit was something that I guess was sort of soft confirmed before, because in the Oden flashback, we did see him bathing with the rest of the crew. And bathing famously involves a lot of water. So you could make the assumption that he isn't a fruit user because it didn't look like said water was affecting him. But at the same time, how devil fruits function with water has always been a little bit inconsistent in One Piece. Sometimes it paralyzes users completely if they just dip their toe into it, and at other times we've seen users capable of movement whilst fully submerged. So it is great to have that statement of no, Roger did not dine on magical fruit salad. And it definitely amps up both the respect and legend of Roger, a man who overcame everything this world had to offer, and he did it with essentially raw determination. That and then hockey, which is something that Kaido takes some time to emphasize. He recognizes that Luffy's powers are now just a little bit redonk, but then he says, it doesn't really matter, because hockey is the true power thing required to do the stuff. And can we just take a moment to call out Kaido's privilege here? I think it's a bit too easy to say that fruit powers don't matter, when you just so happen to have been blessed with one of the most overpowered abilities in the series. Although then the argument becomes, even though he has an absurd fruit, he was still unable to overcome Roger, so it works, but Kaido is very much speaking from the fruit equivalent of an ivory tower here. But again, it is true enough, I suppose. Haki is absolutely integral. Without Haki, even with his awakening, Luffy would be nigh on useless right now. Without observation, he can't use his awakening abilities to dodge Kaido. Without armament, he can't actually hurt Kaido. And without conquerors, he can't hurt Kaido. However, it does feel like that very standard classic villainy thing. The stereotypical antagonist who relies on power instead of less tangible concepts like the power of friendship or dreams and assorted lollipops. He's doing the thing here where the villain misses the point. The whole power is great and all, but it's meaningless without something to protect or something along those lines, Generic hero speech. I think this also serves a double purpose though. A reminder from Oda that yes, Luffy's powers are now pretty insane, but that doesn't set him to God mode in the great open world adventure that is One Piece. He's still gonna struggle, just in more fun and fanciful ways. And speaking of fanciful, we have quite the spectacle brewing at the end of this chapter, because it looks like Luffy has just outright decided to destroy Onigashima, which is a move that reminds me of several things really. First, his current positioning is very reminiscent of the end of Dressrosa, where Luffy took to the sky and made the biggest fist he possibly could to smack that flamingo. Naughty, naughty flamingo. But it's also very evocative of Fishman Island, because during that climax, Luffy decided that, well, in order to save the island, the only option was to destroy that there big ol' Noah. And this time we're kind of combining both scenarios. But that's not quite all, because the presence of this absurdly giant fist also reminds me of One Piece Stampede, with Luffy's King Kong gun. I forget how many it is, I think it's 3. And there's also a hint of movie 2 here, which took place on an island, I suppose not floating, but more like precariously balancing in air, which was destroyed and all of the citizens had to find a way to survive that fall. So there's a lot happening here that's giving me a ton of nostalgia for both canon and non-canon material. The big thing though is that even though this does have similar climactic vibes to several arcs and several movies, this is probably not the finale for Kaido. Oda himself is on record as saying that fans probably wouldn't be pleased by Kaido's defeat, occurring as the result of just another big, strong punch. So this could be a nice solution for the threat of Onigashima, but even if it is successful, it is unlikely to solve our Kaido issue. And I'm just gonna put this out there. At face value, this is a ridiculous idea, because punching the island into oblivion also means punching everyone on the island into oblivion. And yeah, Momo's gonna cater for that problem in a way that he can only describe right now as somehow. But I guess it's just really, really lucky that there are like no high-powered explosives on the island that may or may not want to react after being hit by a lightning-charged mega fist. To be fair, Luffy doesn't know about the explosives, but it is difficult to see how this very, very bold maneuver plays out. And actually, that's why I really love it, because it's a course of action that I had never even stopped to consider. Throughout this whole thing, we've been thinking of like, how are we going to save Onigashima? How are we going to land it? Or at least I've never thought, how about we just destroy it? And that's what One Piece is best at, throwing out these left field solutions. Like the Noah, I suppose Momo could end up saving the island. I mean, Onigashima itself does seem to have some historical importance that we're not yet aware of, and hence we may not want to destroy it from a narrative perspective, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Now, speaking of wait and see, we have 1 times Orochi. A couple of you were questioning why I didn't tick off Hiyori defeats Orochi on the 2022 Bing card, and it's because I was afraid of exactly this situation. Orochi has emerged for another one of his last gasps, and at this point, I don't think that Hiyori will be the one to beat him. In this kind of really dire and desperate scenario, the more likely candidate is probably Denjiro. 1, because, well, he still has yet to fulfill any real purpose during the raid, and 2, because narratively, he's just the best person for the job. Denjiro has a very close relationship with both Hiyori and Orochi. I mean, the dude spent the past 20 years undermining Orochi as well as raising Hiyori, so if we need someone to save that Hiyori from that Orochi, then the natural choice to wrap up everything in a neat little package is Denjiro. But now moving to brother of Hiyori and professional Kaido impersonator, Momonosuke. He had quite a touching couple of pages at the beginning of the chapter, something that retroactively does his character quite a bit of justice really, because traditionally there's been a bit of a lack of love for Momonosuke in the fanbase, and to be fair, it's mostly due to his highly perverted moments. But in general, child characters just don't give audiences what they crave from the more mature child characters, which is essentially what Luffy is. But remembering that this kid is only 8 years old, he's led quite a remarkable life, and he's been forced to grow up very, very quickly, both mentally and now even physically. And that panel of him saying goodbye to Toki really hit me, because it has the contrast of his strong, determined words against his obviously heavily pained face. And that juxtaposition pretty much embodies the character of Momonosuke, a person who has to balance being a terrified, inexperienced child with a great sense of duty that he must accomplish, not just for his family, not just for Wano, but quite literally for the sake of the entire world. So scenes like this make me appreciate him a lot more. And also Kinemon. He had a fantastic speech in this flashback doing a very similar thing to Momonosuke, saying very strong words about fighting and dying and honor and opportunities, but with tears and nose tears just absolutely flooding his face. And in the end, it was Kinemon who gave Momonosuke the strength he needed to travel into the future, because it was that sense of duty to Kinemon and the vassals that really sealed the deal in that moment. But the reason why it was so brilliant and why we had to start the chapter with this flashback was because it gives heart to the rest of the other Wano scenes. For example, with Hyogoro and the other samurai, we've seen Kinemon's desperate plea to fight, which was most certainly present within the samurai of Wano, and then later in the chapter we get to see their satisfaction after having been given that opportunity. And not only that, but we also get to see the happy faces of their family and friends still on the island. All of which was made possible because an 8-year boy summoned the sheer emotional strength he needed, which was well beyond his years. To me, the chapter was flawlessly constructed. I really don't think we've seen a better summary of the state of Wano, because 1047 may as well have eaten the Toki Toki no Mi, because it takes us through the past, the present, and the hope for the future of Wano. And all of that history and hope is being placed in the outcome of Luffy versus Kaido. So while it's not, a traditional hype chapter, it does work shockingly well as an isolated experience. One miscellaneous thing I would like to touch on is that during the part where Hyogoro and the other characters I can't be bothered to remember the names of, but during that part, after they made peace with the idea of dying, we cut to a one-panel reaction from Eustace Kid. And if I had to summarize this look in one sentence, that sentence would be confused and slightly disgusted, but also profoundly understanding. It's the sort of look we used to see on Law's face during the Punk Hazard Dressrosa era, one where he was just absolutely perplexed by the selfless and almost counterintuitive actions of those around him inspired by Luffy. However, he really couldn't protest because whatever was happening, it was working. It's like Kid's having something of an epiphany moment here. And I really don't think I'm reading too much into that because Oda specifically singled him out. We don't see anyone else's reaction to this, just his. So that's Oda showing us that this is having an impact on him. I do also enjoy that the selfless samurai happy to die is immediately followed by the various yellings of Usopp and Hamlet, trying ever so desperately to cling to life. There's a lot of really well-considered small things like that. This chapter is, well, it's a masterclass of just well-oiled storytelling. Something I am still wondering about, though, are all of the lanterns being sent into the air. Previously, I thought they'd serve as some sort of inspiration for Luffy to keep fighting. Having the will of the people up there with him, metaphorically backing him up. But now I'm thinking that, yeah, it could do the same thing, but not for Luffy, for Momonosuke. At this point, Luffy really doesn't seem to need that added boost. He's already in full-on determination mode, but Momonosuke, well, that boy can always use an extra emotional boost. And seeing the hopes and dreams of the Wano people might give Momo that final push he needs to do whatever it is he's going to do to save everyone. Whatever the case, I don't think those lanterns are a throwaway element. They're going to tie into someone, somewhere, and very, very soon. But not quite soon enough, so you do have time to watch this next video, and it's good, so I look forward to seeing you there.